Let me add at this time that another third sponsor of this show tonight is none other than the Cartwright firm, which will provide you with our new trivia special called Black Facts. But right now, Rudy's Health Insurance and Martin County Roofing present the African American Scene, hosted by the one and only Rudy Howard. And here he is right now to host the show. Good afternoon, evening. Rudy, how are you today?
Good evening, good evening, good evening. I just want to tell you guys that Martin County Roofing is just absolutely awesome. I hope if you have roofing needs that you get in touch with them, but Martin County Roofing is awesome. Now, let me give you a couple of news flashes here. Open enrollment for Medicare begins October 15th. Okay. I am having a marketing seminar at St. Lucie Trails a week from Friday at 9 a.m. I am sponsoring this seminar, and I'm going to be talking all about your Medicare options. And it's going to be co-hosted with me with Humana. If you are interested in attending, you have to call. I only have a few spots left open, but if you call, I will put you on the roster and you can attend the seminar at St. Lucie Trails Country Club, 9 a.m. next Friday. So that's 9 a.m. next Friday. So my phone number again is 772-475-8856. Now, Clip, as Cartwright firm has become one of my co-sponsors, and they have agreed to do a wonderful thing of giving us a Black Facts trivia question each Wednesday. And Cliff is going to give you the nature of the question, and he will tell you what the requirements are for you to win the prize.
So are you all ready out there? Listen up, because remember now, eligibility, of course, depends on you texting your answer to 772-349-1407. Make sure not to fail to send your name, occupation, and email address. And now here's the question. Who was the woman who dedicated her life to helping freed slaves, the elderly, and women's suffrage? She died at approximately age 91. And remember, you need to text your answer to 772-349-1407. Make sure not to fail to send your name, occupation, and email address with your answer. And what do they win, Rudy?
They win a Dunkin' Donuts gift card.
Oh, how delightful.
Yeah, they win a Dunkin' Donuts gift card.
Okay, well, I've got the number here.
He looks forward to providing that gift card to you just for calling up and making that answer.
Okay, well, if you forget that number that I gave you, you can call me here at the station off the air, because Rudy will be doing the show, but I'll be here standing by the phones. I'll give you that phone number again and the rules if you need, and I'll repeat the question if you need. 340-1590. All righty, Rudy, take it away.
Okay, and I haven't done this in a while, so this is going to be a completely open forum. You can call up and talk about anything you want to talk about. If you don't call and talk about anything, then I'm going to give you what my prescription is for trying to bring the country together. Now, I hope most of you were paying attention last night and found out that there was a summary judgment issued to Donald Trump for fraud. Did you hear that? Now, let me tell you what a summary judgment is, because that is a very, very potent statement. when a judge issues a summary judgment, that means the facts were so clear and undisputed, there was no need to have a trial. So the trial that will take place next week is going to be for damages. He has been sued for $250 million. And in part of his summary judgment, he is requiring the Trump organization to identify receivers that will handle Trump affairs and Trump LLC corporation business. That is explosive. That is explosive. You don't do that to somebody who is innocent. And this, I just want to tell you something, you know, he's been messing with the wrong, and he goes around and he attacks people, and those people turn around and get him. This is the third time she's got him. Let me refresh your memory. She first got him for his foundation, that she found out impropriety in handling the funds for his nonprofit foundation. She nailed him on that. Then she turned around and nailed him for Trump University. That cost him $25 million. Now she's about to nail him a third time for fraud and in proposing fraudulent activities with respect to his real estate values. And the one part of this that is so blaring that all of you can understand, I don't even want to get into the nitty-gritty details because some of those can be disputed, but here's one part of it that cannot be disputed. He had been alleging that his apartment in Trump Towers was 30,000 square feet. And if you know anything about real estate in New York or even in Florida, valuation is by the square foot. The real square footage of his place was 11,000 square feet. Now, let me say this to you, because I'm a businessman too. If he'd have said that his apartment was 15,000 square feet and it was 11,000 square feet, I'd be like, don't beat him up over that. But when he said his apartment was 30,000 square feet and it was 11,000 square feet, it incensed the judge. I mean, the judge just looked at that and went, what are you doing? How are you going to say something is 30,000 square feet that's 11,000 square feet? So, my friends, I know you love him, but his behind is in big trouble. And if whatever verdict she gets is going to severely damage, I want you to hear this again, severely damage the Trump organization for just cause. Now, you can call up and argue with me all you want, and I welcome your calls, but there's no justification for that. And it continues to follow a pattern that he has laid on you and us for a few years now. It's okay. Just wanted to get that to you. Don't take my word for it, please. I never want you to take my word for anything because, believe me, I've done my homework. Okay, so here we're going to go. Since I have no call, that phone number again is 772-340-1590. And you want to call up and attack me, please. I love attacks. I love challenges. Please feel free to do so. And some of my favorite challenges I haven't heard from in a long time. So here's my formula for how we move forward as a country. Obviously, we all know there's a deep-seated divide among us, which we somehow need to remedy. And this is my formula for how I think we can fix it. Number one, the other side is not evil. That's number one start right there. The other side is not evil. Note how I said that, the other side. I didn't say the Republican side. I didn't say the Democratic side. I said the other side. The other side from where you are is not an evil person. Every action that has been taken by the other side cannot be seen as something of ill intention. If you let me tell you one of the ones that really got to me. If you recall, when Bill Clinton met the former DOJ, the esteemed lady, God, her name just ran out of my head. That's just my old 72 years failing me right now. But he met her on the tarmac, and they've been friends for years. The internet exploded with what discussions they were having on the tarmac when nobody heard it. It was just that Bill Clinton met her on the tarmac, and there had to be some ill-gotten actions with respect to Hillary Clinton. That was so stupid. And I'm going to tell you, for every one of you that believed it, you're a moron, because you did not hear the conversation. Nobody was able to give you any script of the conversation, but you were ready to indict her for having a conversation that you knew nothing about. And this is the point that I want to make that is so important. Let's make sure we have some facts associated with our positions. A meaningful, fact-filled debate is helpful. Now, I want you to, I'm going to repeat that again. A meaningful, fact-filled debate is helpful. If the person you are talking to will not focus on the facts, you are wasting your time. Don't spend your time debating that person, because if that person is not willing to concede the facts, then it is a hopeless cause. But having a discussion with someone who is different from you based on facts can be very, very productive. We need to personally invest time in informing ourselves. Again, that phone number is 340-1590. That's 340-1590. We need to personally invest time in informing ourselves. Let me tell you why that's so important. I think Fox played an integral role in what happened on January 6th by fomenting misinformation and supporting allegations that weren't true. We now know that because it cost them $780 million, that misinformation and supporting allegations that weren't true. So we have to be careful. Now, somebody who's listening here will say, well, what about MSNBC? And I'm going to say to you, as a person who looks at MSNBC, two of the people that were really far to the left, Ed Schultz and Keith Olbermann, got dismissed by MSNBC. Because if you really take the time to listen to MSNBC, several of them, especially Ari Elber, pride themselves on providing factual information. Even though you might not like Rachel Maddow prides herself on providing factual information. I have no problem. Now, Bret Baier on Fox is more of a mainstream reporter providing factual information. I'm just asking you to perk your ears up and be aware of the information that you're receiving. And don't automatically take it because it came from your favorite talking head. And I will tell you, let me make a true confession here. I have a particular animus toward Tucker Carlson because he's lied so much, he's misinformed so much, that I think he has no credibility. And I know some of you absolutely love him, but I have absolutely no respect for that man. And the most recent thing that he did, which was very upsetting to me, was to try and portray January 6th as a typical tourist event. That was so disingenuous and so dishonest. Now, what do we have to do to make ourselves informed? We have to look at books and videos on economics, which are important, because there is information out there, I promise you, will change some of your thinking if you take the time to read it. Because there has been so much misinformation about our economic process, and it needs to be corrected. And I'm going to give you a list of books at the end of my talk here. I'm going to give you a whole list of books that I have read that I think will give you on track for understanding some of the central issues of our time. And they're not, you may look at them as liberal books. I looked at them as books of information that I otherwise might not have been aware of. You need to look at books on religion. It's not a bad thing to try to understand someone else's religion. I read a book called The Son of Hamas, and that was very enlightening about a Palestinian in the Jewish state of Israel, and what it was like for him, and what him and his father had tried to do as far as trying to make some reconciliation. And it gave me a window to look inside that I had never, ever considered. The only other person that had probably given me some insight into that was Jimmy Carter's book. And in Jimmy Carter's book, he talked exclusively about the state of Palestine and his perception of where that is. I tread on that subject very gingerly because I have some very close Jewish friends, and I would want to say nothing to offend them, but I do think there has been some topics out there that warrant some consideration. I do think you have to give a look at books that give you an understanding of other cultures. You may find out that what you think about other cultures is different from the actual reality. So I think it is important for you to spend some time looking at books from other cultures. I a couple of years ago ordered a book on Islam, and I did that reluctantly because I thought that might put me on the watch list for ordering the book. But there was things about Islam I was trying to understand. So I ordered that book so I could get insight myself. I think it's also important to get books on the justice system. And because you need to have a better understanding of what our justice system is all about. One of the things, and I can't think of the name of the book right off the top of my head, she wrote a book that was so straightforward. And one of the things that I learned from her book was so much of what we think is laws is norms. And what Trump did was blow through past practices and norms, some of which had been in place for 50 years. But we accepted them as laws because they had been adhered to. But they weren't laws. And some of the Congress is going to have to make some adjustments for some of the things that we typically accepted as norms and make them laws. And again, that phone number is 340-1590. And you can talk about anything you want. But if you don't call up to talk about anything, I'm going to keep going on my formula for fixing our country. I place a high value on education, and so should you. A very high value on education. And that is not restricted to college. In these days and times, someone can go to IRC and become a nuclear X-ray technician. Some of you probably never even heard of that. My frat brother's wife is a nuclear X-ray technician, and that pays That's a 2-year degree. And I think that's important. I mean, and I'm going to press my fraternity. My fraternity has had a restriction. You cannot belong unless you are a 4-year college graduate. And I think that time has passed. I think it's time to take a strong look at someone who has accomplished an associate's degree, which to me at this point, some of which can outpace the earnings of a college degree, especially if you secure a 2-year degree in technology, like such as in computers. I sent a letter a year ago and I didn't get a response, and I'm going to send another letter this year to the head of my fraternity and asking them to reconsider the idea of allowing someone to become a member of the fraternity who has successfully achieved an associate's degree. I think that time has come. I'm going to suggest that, Cliff, we're going to take a little break here. And again, that phone number is 340-1590. And I have opened up a whole can of worms, and I welcome your thoughts about what I've had to say. Again, that phone number is 340-1590.
At Martin County Roofing, they build trust with quality work. With over 20 years of experience, they handle repairs, restoration, and new roofs for residential and commercial properties. Serving the entire Treasure Coast area, they're fully licensed, bonded, and insured, specializing in tile, metal, shingle, or flat roofs. Let them protect what matters most to you. Contact Martin County Roofing for a free estimate at www.martincountyroofing.com.
Hi, this is Rudy Howard, your independent insurance agent. This means I represent multiple companies, which will allow me to match you with the best company for your needs. I am now officially Rudy's Health Insurance, LLC. So, if you need a Medicare plan or a health plan, call me. That number is 475-8856, or my Facebook page, Rudy's Health Insurance. I am ready to serve you.
This is WPSL Port St. Lucie, the talk of the Treasure Coast.
All righty, back to the African-American scene, and Rudy has Frank on the phone with him on tonight's show. Frank?
Frank, how are you, sir?
Oh, fine. And my best wishes to you.
Thank you.
The reason I'm calling is I want an increase in my Social Security benefit. That would make the country better. I don't want Medicare messed with. And no more foreign involvements, and a good accounting of the so-called war in Ukraine. All the money we've given them, billions of dollars, and if need be, construct prisons. And
I'm sorry, go ahead. If need be.
You have to
Yes, if
speak
need
directly. Oops, Jerry, you have to speak directly into your phone. If you don't, if I try to have to turn you up, we get the howl. Sorry about that. Go ahead, Frank.
If need be, construct more prisons, since we do have a big crime problem in major U.S. cities. That's all I have to say.
Well, don't go away. Let me respond to some of your statements. First off, something that's been near and dear to my heart, and Cliff is just smiling because he knows exactly what I'm going to say. Constructing more prisons is an extreme waste of your money. And let me tell you why I say that. The cost of housing a nonviolent criminal is more than the cost of sending them to a college for a year, room, board, and tuition. I bet you don't believe that, do you?
I worked in the Florida Department of Corrections for a number of years, and the people I want incarcerated are extremely violent criminals who have served notice on society that they are not going to follow anybody's laws.
I agree with you, Frank. I agree with you wholeheartedly. I don't want them people on the street.
Mm-hmm.
But we got people, Frank, we have, listen to this now. This is a shocking statistics for you. We have 25% of the world's prison population. Are we that much better than every other country? 25%, Frank. Did you know that?
I'm not aware of that, but the only reason I'm calling is because that's what I think would change or help change this country. Because I worked at Martin Correctional Facility Institution in Indiantown, and the people were there who were incarcerated it was a level 5 prison, and they were one of the extremely dangerous people in the entire state. Those are the people that I want more prisons built for. I want Social Security protected. I want Medicare benefits expanded so that people don't have to go into debt to pay for health care. And the third thing was, I don't know, encourage more sports for kids in high school. I like to watch high school football. And that's what I have to say. Oh, no more foreign entanglements in these wars in Europe, like the Ukraine. I'd like a complete accounting of where all the money has gone. Perhaps they've stolen it over there, much like they stole the money that was sent to Iraq.
There was a
story. I've got to go. My wife is giving me the high sign. We have to get ready for dinner.
Okay.
I'm watching the Met game on television.
Okay. Let me just respond to what Frank said. There was a story on 60 Minutes this past Sunday that detailed the accounting practice of Ukraine, and they have cut any kind of fraud almost to zero because of an intricate system of detailing and accounting for the funds and the munitions that America has given them. So that's a fact. Okay, Steve. Yes, sir.
Well, Rudy, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Well, I'd like to click my red heel twice and go back to Kansas. I was listening to that guy saying to myself, there's not a psychiatric exam in the world that he'd get out of the office on. And yet he's out there spreading disinformation like it's the truth. Let's build more prisons.
Well, Steve, you and I both know that's not the answer. That is.
Let's call it what it is.
Yeah. That that's just not the answer. Now, some of these aspects, these
security maintained, being 75 years old, and I bet he is too. Everything I heard out of his mouth was for him. I didn't hear anything for the country.
Amen. I didn't want to say that, but that's the truth.
And I'll tell you what, the guy that wins in 2024, the guy or woman, will be the person who takes into account Joe Average and makes a big deal of him. And you watch and see what happens. Joe Average will flock to them.
Well, Steve, I am so hoping you're right, because one of my next points was valuing people over money. and as a country, we have become so daggone selfish. And it is like it is that it is hard for me to understand why we have become so selfish as a country. And it wasn't always like that in our lifetime, Steve.
No,
It's never been perfect, but it's never been like it is now. Now it's like, okay, if you can't get yours, then you know the hell with you.
what they did to us is worse than what the Japanese did. These people have bushwhacked us for the last 50 to 60 years, a nickel at a dime, where you go get a box of bandages now, of 10 bandages is $9. I mean, get real.
Yeah, I agree.
Wonder, well, go to the store, buy a head of lettuce for $4.
Yeah.
So, people better stop. There's a big difference. Back in the 40s and 50s and 60s, the government was scared of the people because they take to the streets. In the 21st century, the people are scared of the government because they're afraid to take to the streets. But that's
Yes. And listen, along what you were just saying, this is along with my prescription for America. There are people that believe if I make you suffer, that somehow magically through your suffering, you'll become a productive American citizen. I'm still trying to figure out how that works.
Yeah, it works in prison all the time with the 90% rescission rate.
Do you know, and there's people, listen, this is not going to believe this, but there's probably people in prison that are in prison because they could find some place to sleep and they could get health care. Is that sick? I think that's sick.
But when we got tough in the 70s and 80s and gave life sentences, those guys are all old men now. They're sick. They're costing us billions of dollars in medical bills. And we keep saying, build more prisons. Let's build more hospitals.
Wow. Yeah. Listen, I am still trying to figure out the concept of making you suffer and that making you a productive citizen, because I think I've talked about this before. I had a young lady on here who is with CareBag, and she opened up my eyes to this, and Cliff's nodding his head because he's familiar with her. She showed me what it was like when a person gets down to try to get back up on their feet. It is a major, major, major task. Because if you're down and you want to get an apartment and you have no prior history, you're going to have to get a deposit for your utility bills. Then you're going to have the first month's, last month's rent and security deposit.
It starts out with you being presumed as a tenant as no good, not trustworthy.
Right.
And we better get all the money up front. And at the same time, you're creating a situation where the tenant won't be able to afford the apartment, and you'll lose in the long run, or they won't take care of it.
So we're on a merry-go-round. Now, I understand California is attempting some very innovative home rental situations out there to try to solve that out of control homeless population they have in California. Thank God, because there's certainly something that needs to be done about that. But I agree with you. We have to listen, we have to stop being selfish. We just have to stop being selfish. That, you know, and I can speak to you because you understand where I'm coming. We didn't have it perfect.
Sorry.
But in the 70s and the 60s, we started to get it right. I think we started getting pretty close to getting it right. Then in the 80s, it just went all the hell in the handbasket.
You got that right. And it's not recovered yet because everybody thinks that they're entitled to instant success and instant entitlements, and there shouldn't be anything standing in their path.
Yeah.
Help you if you create a ripple.
So, but thank you, Steve. Always a pleasure to hear from you.
You too. Stay well.
Okay. So we just talked about one of my prescriptions for healing the country, which is the value of people over money. Do you want to repeat that trivia question, Cliff?
I suppose we probably could do that at your convenience when we.
Yes, go ahead.
Okay, we can go ahead and do that.
This is the Black Facts trivia question sponsored by Cartwright Firm.
That's right, and there's a rule, some rules you got to know about this. In order to be eligible to win, if you know the answer to the question I'm about to read to you, if you know that answer, you need to text your answer to 772-349-1407 and send your name, your occupation, and your email address to be eligible to win. And now back to Rudy. Oh, wait a minute, the question. Sorry about that. Who was the woman who dedicated her life to helping freed slaves, the elderly, and women's suffrage? She died at approximately 91 years of age. Who was she?
Awesome. Now, as the richest country on earth, there should be no American without health insurance. Zero. That is a non-negotiable point with me. None. Zero. Shouldn't happen. And let me show you why it shouldn't happen. Here's a list of foreign countries that have universal health care. And I'm not going to name all of them, but the year in which they got universal health care. And that phone number, again, is 340-1590. Australia has had universal health care since 1975. Belgium has had universal health care since 1945. Canada has had universal health care since 1966. Denmark has had universal health care since 1973. Now listen to this. Germany has had universal health care since 1941. Greece has had universal health care since 1983. Japan, now listen to this one. Japan has had universal health care since 1938. 1938, Japan had universal health care for their people. New Zealand has had health care for their people since 1938. Norway, universal health care since 1912. I could go on and on and on. United Kingdom, universal health care since 1948. Italy, universal health care since 1978. Do you mean to tell me we are less than all of these countries? And there's 20 on here, and I didn't want to read every one of them, But guess who's not on here? Guess who is not on here? The United States of America. And we're richer than most of these countries. But yet you'll be told that somehow giving universal health care to our people destroys our country. And I still am trying to figure out the logic of that. But that is one argument for me. There's no retreat. There's no compromise. There's no discussion. There's just, to me, there's just, when I look at all the countries for what they've done for their people and look at us, and is one very simple issue. Now, I'm going to listen. I want you to hear me. Listen to this very carefully. It's a very simple issue for the countries that put universal health care in. The people were more important than the dollars. You get that? For those countries that put universal health care in for their people, the people were more important than the dollars. In this country, I'm ashamed to say, the dollars are more important than the people. Oh, I hope you want to call up and tell me I'm wrong. That number is 340-1590. I dare you to call up and try to challenge me about that, because there's 20 countries there going back to 1938 providing universal health care. And here we are, the richest country on the face of the earth, and we have people out here struggling to get universal health care. Even with our system, it helped an awful lot, but it still falls short of what it should be for a country of our wealth. The other thing that I think will go a long way to helping us heal is good sportsmanship. You know, we raise our kids. I know, certainly I demanded that of my son, who was an athlete growing up. He played baseball and football and basketball, and I demanded good sportsmanship out of him. Fortunately for him, he was always a good sport. He played on one football team where I think they won one game, and he never was a stinker about the whole thing. I think I hurt for him more than he did. But winning is just not everything. And there has to be a sense of fair play that we've lost. And I hope we can get that back. Let me give you an example. When President Obama had an opportunity to make a Supreme Court appointment, they denied him because they said it was in the year of an election, and they felt the new president should be able to make that appointment. Then they turned around and had the same situation with the death of Ruth Bader Ginsburg, and they shoved that appointment through. Now, what does that do for us? That creates ill will and hard feelings. I, for one, have a grievance with President Obama that he did not fight. That's the one thing that I felt he should have fought for tooth and nail to get his appointment approved. And he was too much of a gentleman, in my opinion. He just was too much of a gentleman, and I hold that against him. That's the one thing, as much as I love him, and what a good job I think he did, I think he really stunk for not fighting that out. Now, we're down to the end, and I'm not going to get a chance to finish all of this, but here's what I want to do, is I want to give you a list of books to read that will enlighten you on some of the very things that I have provided you with tonight. Who Stole the American Dream by Hedrick Smith? He goes through and talks about how the economy has been hijacked from the basic American people, which is what Steve was talking about. The Color of Law by Richard Rothstein. He does a historical analysis about housing and housing discrimination in America. And I promise you, reading that will blow your mind and open your mind. Deadly Spin by Wendell Potter. Wendell Potter was a former executive with Cigna, and he went and wrote a book about how the people were being manipulated regarding healthcare. Saving Capitalism by Robert Reich. Saving Capitalism for the Many and Not the Few by Robert Reich. And the last one, and I'm going to encourage Frank to read this, even though he was in corrections. He was in a very difficult situation. The New Jim Crow by Michelle Alexander. And she talks about the prison system and how it has been discriminatory to people of color. But I didn't get through all of this, but I hope that I was able to shed some light, which is always my goal, is to shed some light on topics and make you think. And I hope that I have successfully been able to make you think about our station in America and how we can do much better, because conservatives want us to stay the same. I don't want us to stay the same, because I think right now we're a B-, and I think we can be an A+ country. And I want us to strive to be an A+ country. And I don't see there's anything wrong with that, and striving to be better, because I think it is within our reach. And I would like to thank you so much to listening to the African American Scene. God bless and be safe. And I will see you next Wednesday right here for the African American Scene.
The African American Scene is heard only on WPSL Port St. Lucie. It's one of the many reasons why we're the talk of the Treasure Coast. It's 7 o'clock right now.